This is the future. This is not the past.
The new XFL will kick off in 2020.
If you smell what the XFL is cooking.
It's still football, but it's professional football reimagined.
This is our moment, our story to tell. This is history begun.
This is the XFL!
Welcome, football fans, and this is the XFL show. I'm Alan.
And I'm Bryant.
And today it's a special episode because we had the big reveal, the official reveal, the big press event at MetLife Stadium. The 8 XFL cities are now official. This is episode 45, officially official. Bryant, I was there today at MetLife Stadium. I know you were taking notes watching the press conference. We've got a lot to recap. That's a strict recap edition we're going to go through today, man. Are you ready?
You know what? I feel like I've been waiting 44 weeks for this moment right now, so I'm ready.
Oh, yes, 44 weeks in the making. Here we are, 8 cities, 8 XFL towns, official, and also a few tidbits given away by Oliver Luck and Vince McMahon at today's press event. So let's run through what was said first, Brian. I know you took notes, man, so if you want to quarterback it, I'm going to catch you some touchdowns.
All right, Alan. Well, it started with, I believe it was the governor of New Jersey coming out, pretty much hyping up New Jersey as a great town. So that's good on him. But then Vince McMahon makes his appearance.
Great state, yeah.
Vince McMahon makes his first appearance in a while, I would say. I don't think he's been in front of an XFL camera since the announcement. I really can't think of another time. It's really been all over Luck up until this point. But basically, the one thing I got from Vince McMahon's, and it was a brief statement, about 2-3 minutes, financial commitment to the long term with the XFL. I mean, that's a huge statement to be making.
Yeah, that was the big thing Vince McMahon brought up. It's a long-term financial commitment for the success of the league, the sustained success of the league compared to 2001, obviously, where there was a partnership involved and it all was kind of riding on two sides working together. This is all Vince McMahon's money, Alpha Entertainment. If you want to put it bluntly, Vince McMahon came out the start of this press event and he said, it's not going to fail this time because I'm putting all my own money into this thing. I'm making sure it happens. So let's rock. Here's Oliver Luck. He's ready to go. And that's what happened. And Oliver Luck came out, and it's great because Vince McMahon has a legitimate football guy that he could put in charge of this whole thing. And Oliver Luck went out and I thought did a fantastic job. If you would have seen what that beast had to go through in terms of talking to people, taking questions, Oliver Luck is a madman when it comes to startups, and he's starting up a league here, and I'm just fascinated watching him do work as the commissioner.
Yeah, if you go back, listeners, and you go to YouTube/XFL show, I believe I'm correct on that, Alan.
Yes, sir.
Alan was very impressed that the man did not drink water, and the man I mean is Oliver Luck. But you're right, Alan. Vince McMahon is basically saying this is gonna fail. This is mine to keep, and we're gonna roll with it.
Yep.
He did.
And I believe reported $23 million more of Vince McMahon's money taken out from WWE stock and most likely put into the XFL this week.
Yeah, but I mean, that's like tipping your waiter an extra $1, I think, in his world. Who knows?
Yes.
February 8th and 9th, we do have confirmed starting weekends. This is the weekend after the Super Bowl in 2020. So that's pretty big because I believe that's going to coincide with the exact same timing as the AAF. So no debate on what, that's true. But no debate on what timing. I know some people were saying maybe he'd push it out to a little bit later in the spring. To avoid the AAF conflict, but he's going head on. He's starting the Saturday and Sunday night wars, I guess.
That's true. If the AAF is around then I guess the two leagues would be playing simultaneously as the NFL season ends with the Super Bowl officially. February 8th and February 9th, 2020. Those are our dates, week 1 of the XFL, but we've got a very long preseason ahead of us, Bryant.
Well, the whole 2019 is their preseason is basically what they were saying. And you know what? Very Very few times in the history of Vince McMahon does he get trumped by somebody else in this press conference, but that's exactly what happened. Oliver Luck came out, and I would say he laid down the hammer. He laid down every single thing that we wanted to hear.
That's what Vince McMahon wants too, though. He put Oliver Luck right there in the starring role of this event, and Oliver Luck went out there, I thought, hit a home run. He introduced 8 delegates, I guess you would call them, from the 8 cities, people that bid on the XFL teams coming to their town, and that was fun in and of itself. Who would you give the most hype to? Who are you most hyped about listening to those? You know, I was talking to one of our producers, Melissa, on the way back from the event, and it would have been nice to, if each city had maybe a celebrity or someone you recognized representing them, but they had people who did the work and fought so that those stadiums and those cities could get the teams, and so they are the ones who deserve to go to the podiums. But which one impressed you? Obviously, credit to these people, but I don't really remember their names unless you wrote them down. I was busy recording audio and taking other notes, Bryant. But the St. Louis delegation, she was the America's Dome lady, amazing. I thought she had me hyped for St. Louis getting football back.
And St. Louis, we kind of got that last week from Frank Cosmano, and unfortunately I didn't grab their names. I'm gonna have to go back and get all that. But she seemed hyped. She seemed like she wanted. She even brought someone with her, I believe. Right? It was the only person who brought 2 people with them. St. Louis seems hungry.
She had backup. Yeah, they were ready. And, the Seattle guy came out and said they were going to win the championship. And you had Dallas and Houston talking about how it's bigger in their town, no bigger in their town. So natural rivalries there. That was all fun. We did have a question. I believe it was on, Twitter or Facebook, at XFL Show. Everybody, social media, we're everywhere. Someone said, can we tell everybody the teams we're going to be rooting for personally? With the first 8 XFL cities. And Brian, I think you and I are the only 2, at least, of us 4 that could come right out of the gates and say, duh, LA. We were LA Extreme fans back in the day. So I'm not taking away my allegiance, even though I'm not living in LA anymore. I'm LA all the way, baby. Up center.
I mean, unless they throw maybe a Memphis Express type name at you, I don't see why any way you wouldn't cheer for LA. I'm cheering for LA all the way. Vince and Jake might have other ideas based on colors and whether they go pastel or bright. Maybe is something what Jake would look at. But you're right, LA all the way for me. I think something that was really interesting that Oliver Luck did bring up when he started talking about the home cities was that he wasn't just looking for a building to rent, right? He said he even called that easy, saying we weren't just looking to come in to rent a building. That's easy. It's basically what he said. And his goal was to establish a spirit of true partnership and build an organization and a year presence that makes these communities proud. So I think that's one of the differences from the year before, the last time around, is they're not just going in and finding buildings and playing in them and calling it a day. They're trying to get the community involved. They're trying to get people involved. I was watching my local news out here. They reported on the XFL coming to LA in 2020. So it's a different approach, I think, since last time.
Yeah, it's not, we're not just trying to fill a building during a time of the year where there's nothing going on there. They want teams to be a part of a community, teams to reflect what that community is all about. So what I'm hopeful for, and what I was thinking a lot about, and why I was asking Oliver, look, when we got the chance to ask questions about team presidents, is I think the people put in those roles are so important, because they're not going to be like traditional team presidents where maybe in the NFL they might have a hand in personnel and something on the field. I feel like XFL team presidents are very much going to be the budget conscious and marketing people for these cities. And that's such an important role, because that person is the person in charge of making sure the team connects with the community. And while winning, of course, is the best way to connect with the community, when you're a startup league, winning isn't the only thing. So it's going to take some innovation. And I think the people put in those team president roles are very important. But we were told by Oliver Luck that those roles are going to be filled probably after the coaches and GMs, because as we do know, Brian, it is all about the quality of the play. So that's what coaches and GMs, they're going to be one and the same, are all about. But the team president role, I think, is very, very important and should be recognized as such.
Well, you know what? The XFL's success is going to be hindered on whether or not these teams make money, right? I mean, if they can create profit, if they can look appeasing to people, then you're actually going to start wanting owners to actually buy these teams, right? So I think the team president's role is to make these teams appealing for, I'm talking future down the line, but someone to actually want to invest in these teams and want to put their own money into it because they see how much it's involving the community and different financial opportunities. But you're right. The president of these teams is probably just going to be just as important, maybe not on the field, but definitely off the field.
Yeah, and their biggest concern is going to be, first and foremost, meeting that budget and making the money that they are expected to be making for the league and for those teams. Oliver Luck said, someone, brought up the question, you got soccer stadiums, you got big old MetLife Stadium. What's the goal? I mean, MetLife Stadium could get 20,000 people, but it's going to look kind of empty like a Jets or Giants game does nowadays versus an MLS stadium like Audi Stadium at DC. What's the goal? And basically, universally, the number Oliver Luck brought up was 20,000 is kind of what they're trying to meet in terms of attendance. And I think that'd be fine. I think MetLife could still rock, even if it's only 20,000 compared to the 70-something it fits. But that's the number the team presidents, most importantly, are going to be focusing on getting into those barns every single week come 2020.
No, definitely, and some of these fields are already kind of fitted for that. You're talking about CenturyLink Field in Seattle. The Sounders play there, but they don't fill that stadium. But they do make it look presentable. They don't allow fans up to the top. They tarp them off. They do what they can. So it's a very interesting selection of some of these stadiums. The one thing that we did confirm that we did not have confirmation of last week was where they were going to play in Houston. And that is going to be the home of the University of Houston Cougars, TDECU Stadium. It's brand new. It's built this millennium.
Oh, yeah, and Houston Cougar football is making a push. They're getting some good recruits and making it an exciting atmosphere, and they're looking to add on to the atmosphere even when they're not playing. So that made sense, new venue. Houston and Dallas, can't wait for that rivalry to develop. Dallas, actually, I think is the most interesting in terms of the venues. Globe Life with a renovated baseball stadium is going to have the retractable roof. They're the first tenant there. They're playing at the same time. The Rangers are going to be getting ready, I guess, to play whenever the season ends.
I'm confused, Alan, because I think here's and I'll bring this up real quick. I believe the XFL is going to be using the old Rangers Stadium. Meaning Globe Life Park is going to be vacated by the Rangers, and the Rangers are going to Globe Life Field. Globe Life Park is going to be renovated to fit a football field in there.
So wait, I know the Rangers own both pretty much, right? So
yes,
the Rangers are moving or moving to a field where they can actually have air conditioning during those hot Dallas summers.
Correct.
And the other park is going to be renovated, and that's where our XFL Dallas is going to play.
Correct, and I believe that's where they're saying the what's the word? The first tenant of the newly renovated Globe Life Park. Globe Life Field is the new field, so I think that's what it was.
Well, as long as they're keeping people involved in the community, the Dallas Metroplex as they call it, and they're keeping them in those buildings with those crazy hot dog concoctions and nachos they do there, I think they're going to be okay, because that's some of the craziest ballpark menus you're ever going to see.
No, for sure. And hopefully the fans can distinguish between Globe Life Park and Globe Life Field, and they're not showing up to the wrong events on the wrong days and things like that.
Are you sure about that? I never knew they were two different places until you just said that.
Look, I'll be 100% honest. I don't know. But based on the research, I feel like I'm right. But I also don't know if I'm right. So
I've never been to a Texas Rangers game, to be fully honest. Have been to Jerry's World, though. The XFL will not be playing there.
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys shouldn't even play there. It's so big in there. It's how massive that place is.
Should only be for big fights, if you ask me.
But you know what? The one thing, too, that I thought was, and before we move off of the home cities here, Alan, is the one statistic that I think Oliver Luck brought in was the fact that in these 8 cities, they're hosting almost a quarter of the nation's population in those 8 cities. You know what? And he did mention the Vince, XFL is thinking big, and Vince loves to think big. So that's what this is, right? I think that's the one thing we miss when picking our cities is big. That's all they want is big. And we're obviously not big swingers like Vince McMahon at the plate. Where we were thinking a little smaller when we were saying cities like Oklahoma City or Columbus, which would be fine, I think, and maybe somewhere down the road if there's expansion. Someone did ask Oliver Luck about expansion. He said we don't want to be presumptuous, but never know. Maybe in a couple of years. But yeah, to start, it's the way to go. I mean, now if you're always talking about exposure on television, digital, and in terms of having games available to the most people to go to, the XFL knocked it out of the park by choosing these 8 cities, a quarter of the entire population. Right. I mean, this entire press conference was based on the cities, right? And that's kind of what the meat and potatoes are. But he did bring up some other things, Alan, if you want to go through them real quick, and I have them written down here. He did mention 4 major areas that they are focusing on to make this game. I believe the word he used was similar yet distinguishable at the same time, something along those lines. And that's that fine line, right, of tweaking the game of football without adding gimmicks, which is what the XFL is trying to do. Yeah, exactly. And the first thing he brings up is speed, and what he said after that was shorter play clock, technical innovation, and modified officiating protocol. Now, some of those, the first one I understand, the other 2 are a little iffy in terms of maybe they were a little just vague in that sense.
Okay, so I'm standing there at MetLife Stadium, Oliver Luck's fielding these questions, and he's killing it. He's not even taking a sip of water, answering every question, and I had that one ready in the holster, just didn't get it out. Modified officiating protocol? What is that? That could mean a lot of things. That's extremely vague, but to me, exciting language, because I'm all about new officiating protocol, especially if it means getting the damn call right. What does that mean to you? Does that mean maybe, I don't know, using more replay, having a supervisor of the officials who's watching from above, possibly? I've always thought that'd be a cool thing. If we're going to have replay, we should have one guy who's sitting there with the best seat in the house, right? I don't know. What do you think that means to you, Bryant?
Modify. It has to be the way things are decided upon on the field, the way things are decided upon in the replay booth, things like that. I mean, you know what? I was it a couple shows ago. You had mentioned what we're thankful for, and I said I was thankful for instant replay. I was watching some of the college football championship games this past weekend, and man, they stopped that game for everything. It has to be right, and sometimes sometimes you're looking at it like there's no reason to even stop that. So it is pretty bad when you're stopping the games all the time. I think the NFL has a good rhythm to it where you only allow coaches certain times, but things like that. I think I don't know, man. This could mean a lot of things, but you're right. It's an exciting statement that just means so much that we have no idea what it actually means.
Yeah, that was the one sentence said during the podium portion of the press event. My ears perked up, and I took that note as well. I said, modified officiating protocol. We could do like 90 shows on what that could be, what we want it to be, and then what it is, and then reacting to what it is. I mean, I can't wait for more details to come out on that.
The next thing he said was meaningful on-field action, and his statement based on that little thing was considering changes to rules governing punts, punt returns, kickoffs, extra points, and play clock. Again, something that's probably geared towards speed, geared towards making this a safe game, something he brought up too very significantly. But again, what kind of changes are they going to bring to these? Because it doesn't seem like they want to get rid of them. I think he's even said that we want to keep the foot in football. But what is going to do to make this exciting, right?
Yeah, and a lot of kickoff adjustments have been made already in the NFL, and maybe the XFL takes some of what they're doing and goes beyond. But I want to know, did you see the Twitter video of the XFL working with the National Junior College Athletic Association down in Mississippi? Did you see any of those?
I did see
very
some.
Short
videos. It was very short video. It was like a 15. The one I saw was a 15, maybe 20-second video of somebody in an office with a computer. I think that's the one I saw.
Yeah, well, there's also one of a kickoff, I think, and I think they're working with Last Chance U, Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, I believe. If you check that Netflix show out, and there was a kickoff, and I was trying to make out what's different from it, and it looked like there was just a lot more guys down at the one where that ball was being caught, and it looked like a wedge right in front of them, right in front of the runner. I couldn't make out exactly how it looked different from a normal kickoff because they didn't even show it, I think, from the kick. But I'm so interested in what's going on with those, right? They're basically guinea pigging with the NJCAA or NJAA, and the XFL is already kind of working on the field, reimagining the game while this press event was going on. That's really interesting. This press event was super fun. I mean, I got bags full of swag too, man. Wait, we're gonna put it on YouTube. XFL show on YouTube, everyone. You could see what they were giving away in their XFL shops. It's like on and popping now. They got cities, T-shirts and hats and stuff you could get. I saw some of our listeners have already copped, but I was there with my bag of swag thinking this is great, but I kind of want to be down in Mississippi on the field where they're doing crazy football experiments right now. Doug Whaley and the crew.
It was unimaginable, right? They're out there just like, hey, let's test out this, guys, and let's test out that, and they're just having the players go out there and actually doing some physical analysis, which it's almost mind-boggling to the sense that they're actually taking the time to do all these things. It's so different than what was going on before, and I keep saying that, but and you know what? It might even be different than what some of the leagues are doing now. Even the NFL. The NFL doesn't really test out some of their new ideas, new strategies of what's a catch, what's not, things like that. They just kind of look at what they have and make a call. So the XFL is taking that extra step and seeing if what they're proposing actually still looks like football and actually still keeps the competitive advantage even.
And the advantage they have is that they can, actually experiment with it without kind of sullying their own league. They're doing it with the NJCAA, right? Oliver Luck said that the spring league, which Johnny Manziel played down in Texas last spring, and that'll be back. They're going to partner up with the XFL and maybe do some of these game tweaks. So there's going to be that moment where Doug Whaley or Oliver Luck, maybe both of them, are going to be at one of those games and figure things out. And it's alive! It's alive! That Frankenstein moment where a new creature, a new football is actually figured out on the field at one of these experimental type of situations. So keeping our eyes on that for everybody. And the XFL's giving us little sneak peeks, but I don't know. I might have to – they said they're going to do one in Texas in the spring. I think, Bryant, I'm going to have to schedule myself a trip to Austin sometime in the spring for that spring league, if that's going down.
Oh, I hear Austin's beautiful in the spring, so that's you're in for a treat there, I'm sure.
Oh, Franklin barbecue, you cannot go wrong.
Shout out to Franklin. All right, the other thing he did bring up, number 3, is in-game rhythm and in-game flow. And the statement after that was limiting gameplay timeouts and TV timeouts and simplifying the rules so that there are fewer interruptions. Alan, we've kind of been saying this as well, where they're going to make the money if they're not going to have TV timeouts. But fewer interruptions, if you want to get that game under 3 hours every time, that's the way to go. I just don't see how they're going to make money then.
Yeah, well, soccer does it, right? You got in continuous halves, so there's ways to do it. There's a lot of room on those screens, especially these big 4K 70, 80 inchers. You could put a big logo all over the place. What I was interested in was the fewer timeouts, maybe? What do we go down to 2?
He says limiting gameplay timeouts. That's all. And you know what I thought of, and something that maybe, for timeouts is instead of giving 3 per half, why don't you give 4 for the game, right? So that way, if somebody's using them in the first half, well, you know what? You're not going to have them in the second half if you keep using them. So that might be a way to limit, because you're still getting, in any given football game, you could have a total of 12 timeouts. I mean, that's a lot of timeout for a football game.
It's a great thing to have, a great tool, but really, the timeout is kind of unnatural when you think about it. I know if Jake were here, his head would probably be spinning. But this we live in reality. You can't magically stop time. I mean, I'm not, unless you're like some Marvel character that probably could do that. But timeouts, I wouldn't be opposed to them just getting rid of them.
Oh, maybe that, and that might be a way to do it too. And football fans, we want to take a quick break and apologize. I know, Alan, you're trying your best over there, man, but you had to stop at some farm on the way back. It's been a long day for you. I know you're just stuck in the middle of somewhere right now. So it's a little noisy.
I went from the big city, and if you're hearing cows moo, yeah, that's right. I stopped off at the family farm to record this special recap podcast. The traditional great sounding show is definitely going to be dropping football Sunday, 7 a.m. Eastern.
And then the last one, Alan, that he brings up, player safety, and I think that's something that was known from the beginning, right? And Jake would be spinning his head on this one specifically too, probably. Extensive health and wellness program based on the input from an accomplished medical board. Excuse me. And then real quick down the line too, he also said that the XFL will test for performance enhancing drugs as well. Any surprise there? Any shocker that they're actually going to focus on that?
Absolutely not, and it's great to hear that the XFL's taking all that stuff seriously. I was all for that. Oliver Luck also kind of name dropped, I think, right, the institutions that would be dealing with the drug testing, but also like the risk management and the health insurance as well. So the XFL is really crossing the T's and dotting the I's when it comes to player safety and keeping, the games fair when it comes to the players' performance on the field and how they enhance it naturally or the Jose Canseco way.
The two groups I believe you're talking about, Alan, were the Berkeley group and the Fairley group. I think is what he called those two. I meant to spell check those to make sure I had them right, but I believe that's what you're talking about. Two companies that are ensuring and making sure the safety of players is number one, I guess, in the sports community. So.
Yeah, I mean, most of us haven't heard of them, those groups, but I looked them up after Oliver Luck mentioned them. They are very respected in those areas, in those fields. If you would have asked me before the press conference today, Bryant, Berkeley Group, Fairley Group, who are they? I said, those are the underground, Illuminati people. But they're not. They're institutions of risk management and health insurers.
Oh, man. Well, Alan, I know we wanted to make this short and sweet, but there was just so much to talk about. There's a couple more things.
Lots to
recap. Very quick. A couple of things, real quick hits on these. Family-friendly and affordable. That's going to be important. I think that's something the AAF also approached, so that's going to be important. I was looking back
get your season tickets now before the prices go up because the demand might be there. But, they might be really affordable for any kind of family to go to an entire season of football. It's unheard of.
Definitely, and then also mentioning a state-of-the-art XFL app, and what's great about this, and something I'll throw in here too, is that he was awarded the gift of time from Vince. That's going to allow things like the XFL app to go without bugs, right? It's going to allow it to actually be something that's useful and meaningful, because in the technological world, even when an iPhone comes out, there's bugs, right? And that's iPhone. So when you release something called the XFL app, you're going to have problems. You don't want to launch that a couple weeks before you're actually going to launch the season. So it's going to give them some time to actually develop something that's really state-of-the-art and really sustainable over time.
And that's the one area that I feel like the AAF might have an advantage because they have so many tech investors and they're focusing so much on that. We haven't seen that app yet, but I'm expecting big things. As for the XFL, we don't know who's making that thing or who's behind it, but if it is going to get the same treatment that the WWE has when it comes to that, then they should be all right because they're working with MLB AM and MLB Advanced Media. If you don't know them, the MLB, they're pioneers not only in just baseball being distributed on a phone or a tablet or the computer, but they will now work. The NHL enlisted them, the WWE enlisted them because they're that damn good. So if I'm the XFL, I'm going to those people and let's do it because that's kind of the standard right now in terms of sports on mobile devices.
Sorry, Alan, I was talking for 29 minutes and I needed water, so kudos to Oliver Luck for sure.
Man, you're not even close to Oliver Luck.
Another thing, too, that he has said is Oliver Luck said that the XFL is already involving with talking to the player agent community. I think that's huge because you want to get to these players, you got to go through their agents, and if you can talk to their agents, tell them, hey, let's come to the XFL and let's not go to that other league.
Yeah, and also it's hey, your client's contract's coming up in the NFL, and you're probably not going to end up paying him anymore. Maybe he's in the twilight or nearing the twilight, and he's reached his pinnacle. Maybe they take a chance and make $300,000 for sure in the XFL. Just let them know we're going to be there in 2020. There are a lot of NFL players like that are going to be hitting their, early to mid 30s. That, I mean, did you see that 90-something yard run by Adrian Peterson the other day?
Yes, I did.
I mean, NFL teams are probably recognizing that they should still be signing him, but by 2020, maybe not. And I'll tell you this right now, if he's not on an NFL team, all day will be in the XFL.
Well, you know what? You even bring up another player on that team that was out of football up until a week ago, and that's was it Mark Sanchez, I believe? Mark Sanchez was out of football. And players like that, it takes 14 weeks for them to actually get a job in the NFL. They could be chilling in the XFL, already done with the season in that amount of time. So there's going to be players out there with name recognition that definitely just want a paycheck, a steady one at that. So
yeah, I mean,
there'll be plenty.
I don't know who wants to see Mark Sanchez play as much anymore. I mean, it's funny to reminisce about the butt fumble, but I could see him being the LA quarterback. I mean, Mission Viejo legend, so
USC guy, totally. Things like that, I think, are going to be key for the XFL, and the way to get to that is through their. But
not coaches, Bryant. Not coaches, because Oliver Luck was asked actually during his session with the media, and they asked him, coaches, are they going to be kind of picked based on location at all? He said, really not a major factor at all. I mean, that would be nice, but it's all about picking guys who are ready to rock and roll when it comes to coaching on the field and putting teams together as a general manager. So if you're expecting someone with Southern California ties to be the LA coach, that's not necessarily going to be the case.
Well, that was a bubble bursted by Alan right there. But he did also mention that quarterbacks and other impact players are going to be signed in Q1 of 2019. You mentioned that, and you wanted to get the wording correct in your video that you posted on YouTube. But yeah, quarterbacks and other impact players. They're going to try to lock them down early. Yeah, impact players.
I think so. The big names in the league are going to be picked early. And, you know, on the YouTube video I did, how'd you like that YouTube live session I did, that quick mini recap of the press conference? Brian, should we do more of those?
I definitely think you should. I mean, it came off well. Appreciate you pulling over. You know, I believe like 40 out of the 50 states it's illegal to use your phone while you're driving. So kudos to actually pulling over and doing that.
Well, of course, I had to abide by the law. But, in that live video, I mentioned that impact players. And what do you think about what I said, though? The fact that the best players and maybe the biggest names are going to be picked early on so that they can, assist in promoting the league for almost an entire calendar year.
That's exactly what I got out of that, too. They want faces, right? They need someone to be recognizable. And players are your most valuable asset. They're going to be the ones selling this product more than anyone. You want to get those locked up before it gets too late, before other leagues swoop them up, and definitely you're going to need that for the entirety of 2019.
And there are a handful of guys you could think of off the top of your head that we just can't get into right now that aren't in the NFL or maybe won't be in the NFL next year, that have name recognition that the XFL could get in Q1 of 2019. But we'll save that for another episode because we know the other guys are going to want to be involved in that discussion.
Other thing, too, that he mentioned, he did bring up gambling a little bit. Wants to make sure that there's a legal and safe way to participate. But he's also hoping that because timing is on their side, that by 2020 there will be more states that actually have legalized gambling, and it'll be to their advantage. So
yeah, we want people to gamble without fear of baseball bats to knees. The more gambling with the fewer baseball bats to kneecaps, the better, and that's going to happen more and more in America as the next few years go by. It's a great time to be a sports fan in the United States because we're finally woke to sports betting, and the XFL is going to be a part of it.
Well, the last thing I'll bring up, Alan, and it's been a crazy day for you, so I appreciate you coming on here and actually, fighting through all this. But the one thing that we're going to bring up now is TV partners. Didn't mention anything specific in terms of who or what or when we're going to hear anything, but he did say very excited about the meaningful and deep conversations we have had with all of the major media players about our distribution plans, confident that our games will be available on all media platforms. So that was the only thing that kind of was felt like fluff to me in this entire conference, was that it just seemed like he might have had something, but really we don't have anything right now to give you guys.
Well, because they're in negotiations, obviously, right? You don't want to tip your hand, and you don't want to maybe make one distributor or channel or whatever, what have you, think they're having an upper hand on another. So that was smart of Oliver Luck. But I will tell you, as someone who was there and eavesdropping, I'll admit it, I listened to some conversations that were nearby and heard some things and heard the letters NBC executive being introduced, and there were multiple channels represented at this press conference. They weren't really introduced to the public, but I noticed them there. You had members of local and national media. I'd say the majority of the people at this press event were probably from the cities that were there, the delegates of the cities that were invited to. It was really a celebration for them. That was ultimately what this was all about. But NBC executives were there, and like I've been saying, that makes the most sense to me, Bryant, because Vince McMahon has one hell of a relationship with them, and there are so many different ways with that particular entity that the XFL can be exposed the way they want to be exposed, and it just makes sense. But you never know. There's always Fox. There's always Amazon. Everybody wants a piece of live sports these days because that is what's going to get people to watch. And this is the biggest word on TV now, live. And that's what the XFL is going to bring in 2020 that is so valuable compared to 2001. That is the number one difference. Live sports content is so much more valuable these days than it was back in the first XFL.
Well, do you think Oliver Luck was strategic enough to throw in the words like meaningful and deep conversations just in case like the Fox execs think, wait, we haven't really had that meaningful and deep conversations. We need to talk to this guy again or something.
Yeah. Our meeting was 10 minutes. What do you mean meaningful and deep? What are they doing over there with NBC? It's all a part of the game, man. It's all the game. Beautiful.
Vince McMahon might have found the smartest man in football world in Oliver Luck, and Oliver Luck finished
in sports startups, though. I mean, think about it. Oliver Luck helped start up the MLS. He started up NFL Europe, and now he's starting up the XFL. This is what he does, man. And I could only imagine what it's like every day. I mean, it's a grind, but that guy's got to be having the most fun in the world, especially when you're talking about football junkies. And Vince McMahon said it. He thinks Oliver Luck loves football more than anyone he's ever met. And going to that event today, I watched the man sit there for 2 hours on his feet, no water, talking football with strangers. He loves football.
Well, he did finish the entire press conference with the XFL is being built for the fans, and it's built to last. So, you know what? I don't know what else to say after that. It was a heck of a day. I'm jealous that you got to go there really quick, and most importantly, can you tell us how lunch was good? Lunch was good.
Oh, just a variety of sandwiches, whatever you want. They even had wraps if you're for the health conscious. In fact, you know what? I didn't feel like eating carbs today, so I grabbed my wrap, I grabbed a sandwich, handed the bread off to someone else, and I just ate. It was delicious. They had cookies, brownies. Oh, it was beautiful. Every kind of drink you needed. They really accommodated everybody for lunch after a very fun event, and it was really, like I said, a celebration for those cities. Those people were having a great time. They got jerseys I saw with the city names on each of them. The representatives took a picture with Oliver Luck. I got my swag bag. And, hey, everybody, even if you weren't there, if you want to relive it and get a piece of what it was like to be at that press event, we're going to do an unboxing of that swag bag for you on our YouTube channels. So look out for that. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at XFL Show, and of course the website. This is the XFLshow.com.
Well, Alan, that is that, sir. I don't know what more we could say. I think this weekend we're going to have definitely some more input from the other guys, Jake, Vince, maybe both. But you know what? I am worried that we are going to hit a little bit of a lull when it comes to news for the next couple of weeks. I think we're going into that Christmas break, but you know what? We got plenty to digest over the next few weeks until to the new year. So sit back, man. We're just getting started. We got a whole year of this to go through, and it's going to be week after week, constant news and information.
Yeah, I mean, the news is going to be coming in Q1 of 2019, Bryant. But I mean, come on. Modified referee protocol. That could take us through Christmas weeks easily. But we got a lot of super jumbo episodes to come. Like the XFL said, they're built to last. So are we, because we're covering it till the break of dawn for everybody out there, all the football fans. So for Bryant, I'm Alan. Everybody, thank you for listening to this special bonus episode of This is the XFL Show. We will be back football Sunday, 7 a.m. Eastern, at our normally scheduled time with the full roster to talk XFL football. A tremendous week. The 8 cities have been revealed, and we're going to have to break them all down. We've got a lot of work to do. Until then, thanks for listening. This is the XFL Show.